As MAGA Republicans everywhere struggle to cope with the fact that Vice President Harris is currently dominating the 2024 election, Fox News host and former Trump press secretary Kayleigh McEnany was visibly triggered as she tried to give her former boss some cover as he tries to back out of the debate with the vice president. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Again, things can change between now and November 5th when the election occurs, but as of this moment, Vice President Harris is winning the 2024 election. She's winning in the national averages, she is winning in swing states, she's winning in fundraising, she's winning in energy, and MAGA Republicans everywhere pretty much know it. As a consequence, Donald Trump has a high-stakes debate coming up with the vice president on September 10th, and we already did a video on this, but he's looking to back out of that debate, presumably because he thinks it's too risky to go head-to-head with Vice President Harris. Which brings me to Kayleigh McEnany, a former Trump White House press secretary, current Fox News host. She is clearly visibly panicked, visibly triggered, and she's trying to give Trump some cover as he tries to weasel his way out of this debate.
Policies. I have questions, and I don't get any answers. I'm not being unreasonable. Come out wherever you are and talk to the press.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said, Emily. You know, if I'm President Trump and I'm watching this, I'm looking at someone trying to script their way to the presidency, to your point, and then I turn on ABC, who I'm expecting to be fair to me, and I see Jon Karl acting as a surrogate. He is a surrogate for the Kamala Harris campaign, the way he was so hostile to Tom Cotton, and I'm supposed to walk in and think you're going to be fair to me? I mean, really? What am I missing?
Well, remember when
So that's Kayleigh McEnany, a former Trump press secretary. Literally, it was her job to go up in front of the American people and spin things on behalf of Donald Trump. She was his official spokesperson, and now she's employed by the very network that Trump is demanding Vice President Harris go to for the debate. So think about it. She's saying, hey, ABC can't be trusted to moderate a debate between Trump and Vice President Harris because a person in ABC's employ, Jonathan Karl, gave a tough interview to a Republican congressman. We're going to show you some clips from that, by the way. Perfectly fair interview. But he gave a tough interview to a Republican congressman. Ergo, the entire network can't be trusted to be fair to Donald Trump. And at the same time, they all want the vice president to show up to Fox News. Fox News, who employs former Republican press secretaries. Dana Perino is another one. She used to work for President Bush. Kayleigh McEnany working for Trump. They constantly grade Trump on a curve. And by the way, as I mentioned in that previous video, they had to pay $800 million to Dominion Voting Systems for defaming Dominion Voting Systems as part of Donald Trump's 2020 big lie, his election conspiracy theories. They knowingly signal boosted Trump's lies about a free and fair election that he legitimately lost because he's such a loser. But the vice president's supposed to forget all of that and just walk onto Fox News and trust that you all will give her a fair debate? It's pretty pathetic, right? They have no credibility in this respect. But that's how you know that McEnany and others, you know, they are clearly unprincipled, but they're not stupid. She recognizes that Harris is winning the election and it's frustrating her. And so she's trying to give Trump cover here as he backs out of a risky debate. But it's not going to work. Now let's turn to the actual interview in question by Jonathan Karl of ABC to Tom Cotton, a Republican senator, and play you some clips, starting with this one here, in which Cotton was asked to address Donald Trump's recent incendiary, insensitive, controversial comments comparing the Presidential Medal of Freedom with the Congressional Medal of Honor.
I also want to ask you something else that Trump had to say recently is saying that the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is something presidents give out. I mean, Trump gave one to Devin Nunes, the former congressman, is the equivalent and much better than the Medal of Honor, which of course is the practically, as you know, as a combat veteran, sacred. I mean, it is the nation's highest military honor. I mean, what do you make of that?
John, it's totally taken out of context. It gives the Presidential Medal of Freedom, just like other presidents do, to civilians who have done important things for their nation, but who haven't sacrificed life and limb. And when you go to a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House and you're presenting it to a soldier who has sacrificed his body or to his parents or to his children or his spouse, that it is of a different order of magnitude. It's totally out of context. Donald Trump was
Do you agree that the Presidential Medal of Freedom is much better? Those are his words.
John, it was totally, you're totally taking that out of context. Donald Trump was great for our military. He is great for our veterans. Kamala Harris is the one who's proposed, for instance, to cut the military every single year. Kamala Harris is the one who voted for military cuts when she was in the Senate. Donald Trump has utmost respect for our veterans and our troops, and you see that by his record in office.
And before you go, I want to ask you about something else.
So that is apparently Jonathan Karl asking Tom Cotton to answer fair questions. Again, we got some other clips. Disqualifies ABC for a debate between people who are not Tom Cotton. It would be between Vice President Harris and Donald Trump. But think about it. Cotton, of course, did lie through his teeth. Are you taking it out of context? No, Trump said what he said. It wasn't part of an overall tapestry which radically changes the words he used. He said that the Presidential Medal of Freedom is better, much better than the Congressional Medal of Honor. And he said in part because the Congressional Medal of Honor goes to soldiers and wounded veterans. And whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that can be awarded to anybody, even beautiful people and stuff like that. That's just the things that Donald Trump said. Donald Trump has not been good for our veterans. Donald Trump famously, according to his own Republican, former four-star general, chief of staff, John Kelly, repeatedly denigrated veterans. He repeatedly denigrated publicly a veteran, Republican Senator John McCain, who was a veteran and prisoner of war. He publicly denigrated McCain. We don't even need secondhand reporting on that or hearsay. We need nothing of that. Donald Trump did it on TV repeatedly. Donald Trump and his party opposed the PACT Act, which expanded veterans' health care. It was President Biden and Vice President Harris and the Democratic Party that pushed it through, in large part because of liberal and progressive activists like Jon Stewart. So Tom Cotton is just lying there. And by the way, the military budget has only expanded under the Biden-Harris administration. So it's just patently absurd. Republicans are definitely pro-war. They're pro-big guns, but they are demonstrably not supportive of U.S. troops and certainly U.S. veterans. Democrats have an objectively greater record. Some more clips from this interview, which again, according to former Trump press secretary, disqualifies ABC from being an effective moderator for a Trump-Harris debate.
Our reports, there's obviously a bit of a momentum change here. You see it in the polls, you see it in the money flowing in to the Harris campaign. And there was a report in Politico that Trump now knows that he has to change things up or that he could lose. You talk to him. I mean, what's your sense? Do you need a change in direction?
Well, President Trump and his campaign has known all along, and they've said all along, that this race is going to be a close race.
Actually, he said it would be a landslide, just to be clear. He said he was going to win in a landslide.
But look, we know the race will probably come down to a few 100,000 votes in a few states. President Trump has been campaigning hard and vigorously now for months. Obviously, that's going to increase in its pace as we get closer to the election. And President Trump is...
Our reports...
So, again, apparently just confronting Tom Cotton with the fact that the momentum has changed, again, reflected in the fundraising, in the polls, in the overall energy. That disqualifies ABC. Fox News apparently could do it much better. Another clip just to really drive this home that none of this was inappropriate and was actually decent journalism.
Of heart. I want to ask you about what Donald Trump had to say just a couple of days ago. He said, and this is an exact quote statement he put out, "My administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights." Is he now going to be campaigning on abortion rights? What's going on here?
He will be great for women. He was great for women. Women had great opportunities under Donald Trump. You had a healthy, growing economy. You had safe communities, and you had...
But I'm asking you about the reproductive rights.
Well, look, Democrats can use phrases like reproductive rights all they want to describe their pro-abortion position, which would force Americans to pay with tax dollars for abortion up to the moment of birth. That's the Democratic position.
I mean,
they can use that phrase if they want to. They don't get a monopoly on the language to cover up their radical positions.
But I just asked you, it's now Trump using those words.
But he's
reproductive rights. But he's also said, we also heard from J.D. Vance, that he would veto a national abortion ban, and he came out against using the Comstock Act to prevent the shipping of the abortion pill. So what is happening? I mean, in fact, he said just the other day, he suggested that he may support the amendment on the ballot in Florida to provide a constitutional right to an abortion. I mean, what is happening with Trump on abortion?
So, John, I think you just made a very important point. The only candidate here proposing a national abortion law is Kamala Harris. And we know what that law looks like because congressional Democrats have voted on it. It would require taxpayer funding for abortion up to the moment of birth.
That's not their law. They want to codify Roe v. Wade.
No, that's not at all. That's what they say about their law, John.
I'm asking you about Donald Trump, though.
So first off,
you have a solid pro-life record for as long as you've been in public office. What do you make of what he is saying now, saying he is going to be protecting reproductive freedom, and that he could even support a constitutional amendment in Florida,
first off,
legalizing abortion?
I voted on the law. You didn't. It does not codify Roe. It goes far beyond what Roe says. It would provide taxpayer funding for abortion up to the moment of birth. Donald Trump has been consistent. He said that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided. Before Roe v. Wade, this question was largely regulated by the states. Now that Roe v. Wade has been reversed, it will be again largely regulated by the states. Kamala Harris is the one that proposes the radical national abortion law.
I also want to ask you.
So again, according to them, that question, and you can disagree with Tom Cotton's answer, I do, but it's not like he wasn't allowed to answer. I imagine many conservatives would be quite pleased by Cotton's answer. It is true that the Democrats want to codify Roe protections into law, and Republicans like Tom Cotton objected to it. It's also true that Donald Trump has been wildly inconsistent about his abortion stance. He also said that women should be punished for having an abortion. We have that. There should be some form of punishment. Tom Cotton, of course, wants to get away from that. Donald Trump will say one thing about abortion on Monday, contradict himself on Tuesday. He'll celebrate Roe v. Wade and its overturning and also endorse restrictive red state laws against abortion. Then he'll also signal when it's convenient that he's so moderate on abortion that he might vote as a citizen, as a resident of Florida, that he actually might vote for a constitutional right to an abortion in this red state, which is ran by his erstwhile ally, Ron DeSantis. So again, Tom Cotton's being pretty dishonest about all of that. But nothing about that interview was inappropriate or made Jonathan Karl a surrogate of the Harris administration. Interviews should be adversarial. And I say that as a liberal/progressive. I think that if you interview a Democrat, you should have adversarial questions. You should have like the Mehdi Hasan, James O'Brien, British style of questions, but that also should apply to Republicans as well. And again, I keep going back to Trump and Fox want Harris to debate on Fox. Why would they do that? By every objective metric, Fox is more openly ideologically supportive of Trump than Jonathan Karl of ABC is to Harris. Interesting stuff. But again, it goes to show their freak out is indicative of insecurity. Kayleigh McEnany knows that her ex-boss is currently losing this election, and she is desperate to give him any sort of cover she possibly can to save face. And I don't think it's going to work. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.